Damn it. Hi, everybody.
Yay! We're back and it's working.
You gotta love it when it works. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Okay, guys. So if you're wondering why I'm looking off screen, it's because I'm trying to get this shared to other places. So this is exciting. I'm so excited to be on here with you, Heather, and for everybody to learn about your fucking awesome self. And I know a lot of people got to watch the two of us last week. So you know that you're down, diggity, for the real deal, no bullshit talk here, which is amazing.
Nah, none of the bullshit. Let's just, if you like hypey marketing and sneaky sales shenanigans, you're in the wrong place. Go bye bye. Unfriend.
We
Get
don't do none
gone.
of that shit here. No, exactly.
That's not what we're about. So yeah.
Okay, sorry, found my group. Sharing. All right, this is
Hi.
so yeah, let us know as you're coming on, guys. Heather is the sales queen, and you know what I'm really excited to hear about is you have such a unique background. I know most people who get into the coaching world have like corporate backgrounds, and that's not your background. You've got a fucking kick-ass, interesting background. So I'd love to hear about you and all of your amazingness. And then I know you're always telling us about these really interesting sales analogies from your time when you were selling dildos. So I really want to hear at least one really funny fucking story, but that's going to be educational.
Oh god, I just had a really funny one come in, but it's not educational. It's just
Oh well,
pure
then fuck
funny.
the educational. Then
Um,
then just make us laugh. It's Friday anyway.
it's Friday. Okay, so I'm Heather Wylde Smith. I am a specialty sales coach for people who are over the hype and they want to have full practices with great clients, but they don't want to resort to, do you want to 10x your income in 60 days and bullying sales tactics on the phone. Like they want to act with integrity. They want to treat people with respect. I don't know why these are foreign concepts.
Oh my God. No, you're not joking though. I mean, it's prevalent. It's so prevalent in the industry. And one thing that was really funny, well, maybe it wasn't that funny, but I thought it was funny, is I had a client several months ago and she was going to a summit and it was supposed to be in person and it ended up online. So like, it was fine over the few days. And of course they pitch at the end, which is what they do to get people to go to the next level with the coaching program.
Sure.
And somebody in the audience had said like, this is fantastic and I'll be signing up for the next round. I'm really excited for this. And then they were like, well, why aren't you signing up for this round? And she's like, well, I talked to my spouse and we decided, based on our finances, it makes more sense for us to do the next round. I was like, your spouse is abusing you by holding your money hostage. Oh, it was fucking ridiculous. Anyway, we died laughing over this thing, but at the same time, this is somebody who's pulled up on Zoom in front of 1,000 other people being fucking bullied by this person trying to sell their fucking coaching program. It's like, excuse me, what the fuck are you doing?
Using bullying to talk, you calling out. Wow, that is so crazy. I can't even spit it out. I like. Wow. I mean, you hear about so much bullshit, and like that's pretty extreme. Right. That's not something that I hear about every day, but you do hear, I didn't hear this personally, but a good friend of mine, she had gone through a program and their thing was like, go for the cry on the sales call, to like hammer the pain point so much that you get someone crying in order, because when we're emotional we're off balance. that's
Yeah.
that's what's that's what's wrong with our world today, is that like nobody's trying to communicate, everybody's just trying to use, oh god, full disclosure, I woke up an hour ago. I'm a total night owl, and I was a princess last night. I had the sleep mask, the earplugs, the CPAP, and 6 pillows, and I still couldn't fucking go to sleep. I think I was just really excited to come to like hang out with Amanda today. Um, yeah. So people using inflammatory language, and it's all about keeping people in their emotions, because when we're in our emotions, we're more easily manipulated. And so this particular sales strategy is to like get people like in tears on a sales call, so that then you know they're off balance and you can manipulate them into, well, you know, like my $10,000 program is the only hope. You know,
Oh,
I am Obi-Wan Kenobi. I am your only hope.
oh, fuck yeah, that shit like literally just
It's
like,
it's
oh,
ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And it doesn't, and people like don't don't believe that you have to be like that in order to make sales. Like you can make sales without being, you know, slimy. And there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of shades of gray. There's like a spectrum of sleazy sales and marketing tactics. And you don't even have to be like, if what we're describing is like a 10 on, you know, like at the top of the scale of just like, you don't even have to be a 2 on that scale and you can still make money, you know. So which is one of the reasons why I love talking with Amanda, because she doesn't do the hype, you know. She's very successful and she doesn't do the hype. So yeah, I was thinking about it earlier, when I was brushing my teeth. I was like, how do I describe myself? And I'm like, well, I have a PhD from the School of Hard Knocks. I've at very least got like a master's degree in online marketing and sales at this point from all the courses that I've taken. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. So my background. So one of the things that sets me apart is, as Amanda says, like I did not come from a corporate background. I've worked for a big corporation once in my life, and it was just as soul sucking as I thought it was going to be. um, but yeah, when I was 11, I saw Pretty Woman, and at the part where she tells him that, like, you know, he offers to put her up in the condo and like she can keep the clothes, and you know he's gonna, like, you know, put her up in the nice place and everything. I'm 11, and she's like, no, I want the fairy tale, and she walks away. I was ready to scream at the screen like, bitch, take the clothes, take the condo, get better clients. So I don't know. I think methinks I have been a sex worker in multiple lifetimes. I don't know why an 11-year-old from like a country bumpkin town was like, "Come on, bitch, get game."
oh, but I think that's like the way we think is in. Well, part of it too is I think sometimes like when we're adults talking about the fact that when we were younger we were thinking about like sex and the sex trade. First of all, like it's so prevalent in movies and stuff. Like, I mean, my Barbies were having sex with each other when I was like 6. So like, you
My
know,
Barbie, my mom kept taking my Barbies away because first off, they were a pain in the ass to dress, and I made them have sex. So,
oh
oh my
yeah,
god,
all the time. All the time. So yeah, like I feel you there where it wasn't like this weird gross porn concept. Maybe that it would have been before like the movie industry got really big with like everything had sex. So I think it's kind of part of the human awakening that it's not this like, gross icky, for some people it still is, but like it's just part of life. And
just part of life. Well, it's just funny that I was just like, I wasn't sitting there saying go for the fairy tale. I was like, no, 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 this is a much surer way to happiness. Like, go get that money, girl. Um, and you know, at the same time I was like gearing up, you know, at 11 to become valedictorian at my high school. And so I never thought I would end up in the sex industry because I was like, I'm too smart for that. Let me tell you, you got to be smart to be a good hoe. Okay. So I did go to college. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do, and now I know why, because there's not a college degree for my life path. There's just not, which is great, because even though I had scholarships, I could have ended up with college debt, and I don't have any of that, thank God. But so I was in the sex industry for like 16 years, and I loved it. I loved it. I was like, I get to have orgasms and money and adventures, and you know, like it was just, I don't know. I half really, like, half of it was for the adventure. I was just like, ooh, what's gonna happen tonight? You know, it was
that's
always
awesome.
shenanigans, but like fun shenanigans, you know,
Yeah.
and like, you know, I could hop on a plane and like go to New York and have a job within 12 hours, you know, like job security, you know, it's not just a job, it's an adventure. So, so I like to joke that like I learned to sell naked or in Victoria's lingerie.
Oh, I
Um,
like that. Oh, what? That's like a great slogan. Learn to sell naked.
learned to sell naked, and I was kind of thinking it works for now too because it without the hype and without the bullshit. It's like we're natural. It's like learn to sell naked. So I'm gonna play with that. Yeah. So I was in the sex industry for 16 years, and then the industry changed, and it got really more. I mean, it was always dangerous to an extent, but like got really dangerous and it got really gross. And so everybody was like, Heather, you got to get out of the industry. You got to get out of the industry. And I'm like, why? Uh, but I wasn't having as much fun anymore and I wasn't making as much money. And so I went to a career coach and she told me that working in corporate in a big corporation would eat my soul, and I was like, no, I can't be that serious. um, but I went to my coaching school, and then I spent years trying to figure out how to get my coaching business off the ground. And taking numerous, like when I say I have like a master's degree in online sales and marketing, I've gone through like 5 big guru courses. I've invested upwards of $20,000 just in my business development at this point. But even though I was learning stuff, I wasn't getting the accountability and the one-to-one help to implement things and to
Mm.
customize them. And so much of what I was being taught just didn't feel aligned for me. Like the stuff they were teaching me, like some of it was like on the ick scale. Like if 0 was no ick, if 10 was like people being bullied in front of scores of people and being told that their spouse is abusing them, like that's this
It's a
most
new
of this.
one for the record books.
Right. Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I don't know. I've heard all kinds of stuff. It's like, the coach that tells people to put a second mortgage on their house because he charges $156,000 for coaching for a year and still isn't guaranteeing any type of results. Doesn't even guarantee how many calls you get. It's like 2 to 3 calls a month. And I'm like, for $156,000, you can't even guarantee somebody's going to get 3 calls a month.
What the flipping fuck? Like, I mean, I get to the extent saying like, it's kind of like can't guarantee something because like
Right.
you could coach somebody all day long and if they don't implement, like they're not going to get results. But you should be able to guarantee this many calls a month. They will be for this long at least. Like that shit you have under your control and you should be guaranteed.
Yes. And, to me, if you're charging $156,000 for coaching, that's fine. But why are you targeting people that need to take out a second mortgage? There's CEOs, there's people that could pay that. They might have to put it on a credit card. They might have to like do installment payments, but they wouldn't need to take out a second mortgage. And I was just like, that doesn't feel really good to me. Anyway, so the stuff I was being taught was probably like a 5 on the X scale, but like one place used NLP in their sales scripts, which NLP being a form of hypnosis, I'm like, you're hypnotizing people and without their permission and then asking for thousands of dollars. That doesn't feel good to me. And it was, and every time I would get up the moxie to be like, yeah, I don't know, this feels kind of funny. It was the old, like, I don't know if people are doing this so much, but like 5 years ago, anytime you had a question about anything, even if you dared to question their system, it's your limiting beliefs.
Oh, fuck.
It's your success blocks. And I'm like, no, it's my conscience.
It's my
There's
moral center saying no.
Yeah. And I mean, like, okay, fair point. I probably do have some success in money blocks I need to go work on, and I did. But I'm like, and my moral compass is still saying this is not for me, you know? So it took me ages, to get my coaching thing off the ground. And in the process, I did go work for a big corporation, and after 2 years, I ended up with breast cancer. And I was
Ooh,
like, I wonder if this is the soul eating thing she was talking about.
Jesus, no kidding. Oh man.
I'm like, hmm. But I beat that. I got all that behind me. And this year I got a one-to-one coach, and then I hired another one-to-one coach. At one point, I was working with 3 coaches at the same time. But you know what? It got me over the hump, and I've been making money in my business this year, which is amazing. And and doing it without bullshit, without like I'm like, okay, I knew it was possible. I knew there was a way, and that's why I just kept having to invest and invest and invest until I found the way. And a lot of it I had to just create on my own. I had
Yeah.
to like find other people who were similar and talk to them, get coaching from them, and be like, okay, it's possible. So for anybody who's watching this and you're like, yeah, I really want to have my coaching business, but sales and marketing are so fucking gross, and I just want to help people. Well, first off, you can't help people if you can't pay your bills. If you're working a 9 to 5 while you're building your coaching business, that's one thing, right? But you're never going to get out of it 9 to 5 if you don't figure out a way of selling and marketing that feel really good to you. And for people who are like, oh, I just want to serve, well, if you're just serving and not making any money, and you have some form of even part-time job, the time that you're at that job is taking away from time that you could be helping people, right? And that's one of the things I finally had to get, you know. So yeah, that's how I come before you today.
I love it. Well, I think that's so important because I get so fed up with the well, I mean, the funny thing is, it's like it's almost trends that happen sometimes. Like I remember last year, it was very trendy to put out controversial posts. Like
Oh yeah.
that was the thing. If you pissed people off, it was a good post, and I was like, the fuck is this shit? Like, I get standing in your opinion and that it might
Yeah.
rub people the wrong way, but intentionally trying to rub people the wrong way, what the flippin' fuck? And that's ironically, everybody was like, this is the way things are gonna be. And then it's like nobody's doing that anymore. They're just, speaking their truth. And if it pisses somebody off, so be it. But it was like the fucking weird ass trends that we see drives me batshit crazy. And it's like, just be you in your
Right.
wonderful way.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be sleazy. You don't have to be pushy. You don't have to be like doing any of these gross tactic shit. It's like if you've
Hmm.
got a good fucking offer and you can communicate it properly, you're good.
Yes. Yes. And I love what you talked about. When you were in my Amanda came and visited my group last week. I love what you talked about when you were saying we were talking about how to differentiate yourself and you'll get yourself out there, especially when you're new. And you were saying, you just have to like show people who you are, you know because that is ultimately our biggest differentiator. I know that there and one of my missions in my business is not my primary mission, but one of my missions is to show people that if they do have a background in sex work, because a lot of people do and they never talk about it because they're really ashamed, or they're
Mhm.
not necessarily afraid, ashamed themselves, but they're afraid of what other people are going to think about them, right? And I want to be a light for those people and show you that, like, I also, in my 20s, I had a pretty bad I had a daily drug habit. I had a $2,000 a month drug habit. I smoked a lot of weed and ate a lot of ecstasy. Um, and then spent my 30s getting sober. Whee! Um, but I want to be transparent about where I come from, because I want people to know that, like, if you have an arrest record, if you have, um, part of your resume is not really submittable to some places. If if you've overcome an addiction, like, you can be successful. You
Yeah.
can go on to thrive. You don't have to let those things define you. So that may be something that attracts some people to me. Um you have a very different background. You have your background in sales, and um I'm spiritual as well, but it's more of, I guess, you incorporate more into your business and everything, and so that's a differentiating thing, for you, you know?
Yeah. Well, I like the fact that you bring that up too, about like specifically about the stuff that we can be really ashamed to bring up. And it's interesting how we can kind of try and hide things, even though they would actually be really beneficial to talk about. Like when I started as an entrepreneur, I was doing health and fitness coaching to start off, and I was deathly afraid for a long time that people would find out that I lost 138 pounds, but I did it because I was anorexic. Like I had an eating disorder, and I
Mhm.
had also struggled with depression and OCD, and before the anorexia, I didn't know it until I was much older and in therapy and whatnot. But like from about the age of 5, I had a binge eating disorder because I had abandonment issues. And then I had bulimia issues after that. Like I had so many fucking issues and I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to bring that up. Because I was like, oh, well, then they'll think this doesn't work because I did it the wrong way. So I didn't talk about it for a really long time. And you're right, there's shame and fear of judgment and what are people going to think, and we do have to move through that, and it is scary as fuck.
It is. So, years ago I was doing sex and romance coaching, which was really fun. I was like, I know about this shit. And I loved teaching like pleasurable safer sex classes. I mean, I had a really good time with it. But I didn't. I was taking all these courses, and it wasn't helping me to like actually convert people and everything. So I don't do that anymore. But where are we going with this? Okay, so yeah, so when I did that, like my background was an asset, and so I was very upfront about the fact that like, hey, I used to be a hooker. And then when I went to, have a corporate job, of course, I had to go in the closet about everything. And
Mm.
I grew up in a really small Southern Baptist town where I was in the closet most of my life about being bisexual. And so to have to go back and then, went to college and I was like, fuck that. I'm out. And, and then I lived this very bohemian lifestyle as a sex worker where, people didn't give a shit. Like being bisexual was a business asset.
Right, yes, yeah, like it's
I was marketable.
yeah.
And so then, when I went into, having this corporate job, like, I was not very open about being bi, and I certainly wasn't open about a lot of my background, and it felt really icky. And then I moved on to being a limo driver, and I was employed by one of like the top, most prestigious limo companies in the world, and so of course could not let anybody know anything about who I really am or like who my experience is there. It's only after I started making sales in my coaching business I was like, oh, finally, thank God, I can talk about stuff because it it being in the sex industry that long, I see the world in a slightly different way, than a lot of people, right? And so you were asking for like a funny story. So I was talking to somebody, I was doing like a quick consult call with somebody in my group, and she was saying that that people were like ghosting her after sales calls. And when I asked a few more questions, I was like, oh, okay, I think you're overgiving in the sales call and you're scaring people off, right? And
Mm.
so it jarred my memory about this sales experience. My sales experience. So after I left the sex industry, I went to work at one of the biggest sex toy stores in Atlanta, and this place was like wall to wall dildos, anal beads, edible thong. Like it was a lot. Like there was so much merchandise. Like the guy that runs it is like he's special. But he really prides himself. He really prides himself on having like this huge inventory. And so you've got everything from like $5 vibrator that's gonna break after like one use to like the $300 vibrator that's going to last for 10 years and has like a recharging stand. You don't even have to like plug it in or use batteries. So excuse me. So I got the Rona. No, I'm just joking. Let me knock on something.
You're all knocking on wood for you now.
No Rona. Okay. Okay, so yeah, it's just wall to walls. Like there was my favorite thing in there. We would always take new people on like a tour of the store, and like my favorite thing in there that was also like a little scary is there was this thing called the ass gnome that was like a foot and a half high, and it like at its biggest point was probably like that big around, and it was a giant butt plug. And there's people who can actually use that toy, and I was just like, that is dedication. I never sold an ass gnome though, but I was really good at selling some of the high end toys because I knew they were high quality. Like I knew that they were really good. At any rate, so this woman comes in and she says that she wants to buy a vibrator, and I don't know if she'd ever owned a vibrator. I can't remember, but I would always ask people questions like, do you like internal stimulation, external stimulation, is there material you like better, blah 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 blah. And so I'm taking her, and we're standing in the section of the store, the section of this giant wall that is like vibrators for women. And I'm pointing out like, well, this material, and these, this one has batteries, this one plugs in, this one has a charging base, this one da 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 da. And after like 20 minutes, she was like, this is a lot. And I should have heard it in her voice. This is one of the things I teach people, is to like listen for what people are saying without words, like the nonverbal cues. But I should have heard it in her voice that she was just getting overwhelmed. And back then I thought sales was all about just, if you were knowledgeable and you were passionate, that's all it took. And now, like, knowledge and passion are really good, but you also have to be attuned to your person you're selling to. You also have to know like sales psychology. You also have to be like aware that there's kind of the journey that you take people on with a sales structure that helps them to have epiphanies along the way, and also makes them more likely to, if they're a good fit, not in a manipulative way, but if they're a good fit, makes it more likely that they'll get the sale, or that you'll get the sale, and they'll get their transformation. But I wasn't thinking this. I was just like, oh my God, you're going to come 8 billion times. And didn't say it quite like that. But yeah, so after like a few more minutes, she was just like, I got to go. And she didn't quite run out, but she got the fuck gone. I was like, oh, damn. And so I had written a post about how, we hear all the time you're not supposed to coach on your sales calls. And this was like, me pulling from a prior experience, a prior interesting experience. A case where, like, if you give somebody too much information, a lot of times, like, you fuck yourself, and not in a fun way. And you fuck them because, especially with our industry, if we give somebody too much information on a sales call, it either they feel overconfident and they feel like so empowered, and they're like, oh, I don't need them, I can go do it on my own. Or they're like, oh my God, there's no way I could know all that, do all that, oh my God, and they just run away, right?
Yeah.
Either way, we lose the sale and they don't get their transformation. So
Oh, I love that. I mean, it's such a good story to illustrate that point. I think it's something that a lot of coaches watching this are going to be able to relate to from their flopped sales calls. And we've all been through that experience. And I mean, even just getting the right person on a sales call is its whole journey.
that's half the battle. Like, I love teaching people what I'm really super super passionate about is teaching people the sales conversation, because
Yeah.
I've never found anybody who teaches it quite the way I do. And I went through so much to understand it myself that now I know it inside and out. And I can show people how I sell, but then I also will help them tweak it so that it feels really good to them and is going to be really effective with their target market. But if you're not really clear on your ideal client and your nightmare client,
Equally important.
pretty equally important. You got to know who you want to work with, and you got to really know who you don't want to work with, so that you can repel that person and throw salt at them. Sage at them. No, it's not quite that serious. But yeah, you gotta know who you want to work with. You got to be very clear, and you got to know who you don't want to work with and be very clear. And you've got to be able to market and reach those people, because you can be the best salesperson in the world, and if you're not getting the right people on the calls, all you're going to hear is a bunch of objections and no. And it's demoralizing. It sucks. And so now, like, I used to hate ICA exercises because I think we talked about this. Like, the way most people teach ICA is like really creating a fictional character.
Yeah.
Which is really helpful when you're writing your sci-fi novels, but not so helpful when you're trying to figure out how to market to someone. They would just have you up with like, what color is their car? You know, what kind of yoga does she do? What does she order at Starbucks? It doesn't fucking matter. That
That's just way too much.
it's way too much. It's just like you need to know, are they a go-getter? Are they an action taker, or are they an excuse maker? That would be a nightmare client avatar quality. You know, you need to know like mostly psychographics. And then I heard you talking about in one of your videos the other day, well, I don't know if it was the other day or if it was just the other day for me, but you were talking about, you know, you want to work with, you know, single women that or women who want to work from home. And you were like, well, you know, you've got the city dweller who's single who wants to work from home and wants to leave her 9 to 5. And I may be butchering your examples, but you know, or you could have like the mother of two who lives in the suburbs or even a rural area, you know, who wants to work from home. And so you do have to know like some demographics, but like
Yeah.
most ICA things I've seen, just they I swear so many times I think people go to like a big business training and they just turn around and just repackage it and like barely even change anything. And they're just like, yep, this is how you get to 7 figures. And I'm like, no, this is how your
Mm-mm.
mentor got to 7 figures, charging you $20,000 for this 6 week course, and you know, guaranteeing but not guaranteeing that you were going to be able to do the same thing. Like, ugh. But ICA is
Yeah.
like it's really important. You want to be getting on the phone with ideal clients, otherwise you're fucked. And not in a fun
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And I mean, it's time consuming and it's tiring and it's also demoralizing. The more calls you have to go on before you sign somebody, and when you're really specific about who you're talking to, I mean, you can get to the point where you close almost every single call, and that I mean, that's where you want to be so that your time is spent very effectively. Because it, especially I mean, well, as things pick up, I mean, it makes you seem like, oh, well, it wouldn't matter if I wasted my time on the call. Well, no, that's when your time's even more valuable because you've got to work with people and be decisive about what you're doing. But to get booked up, you got to know who the fuck you're talking to in the first place and making sure it's clear. And like you say, mastering the sales call, that you're not giving too much information. And also the opposite is true, which you know, where you get on a call with somebody and they don't give you anything and you're like, well, I hope when I pay you you might be able to train me. And it reminds me of those goddamn webinars where they're like, we're going to teach you the 5 steps to blah 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 what the fuck ever, and you get on and they keep dancing around the topic, they won't really tell you about it, and by the end of the webinar they're like, okay, now you buy this and we'll take you to the next level, and you're like, you didn't take me to any level this time, why would I give you any of my money?
Right. Right. So I worked with someone and she was working with people, and I'm sure that she, you know, she liked to pretend that everything came from, you know, from her. But I'm sure it was
Mm,
influenced by other people. But I worked with a mentor who was responsible for a lot of the inflammatory posts. You know, that was a marketing technique that she taught. You know, if you're not pissing people off, if you're not walking the edge, then you're just fading into the noise. And you know, you need to be shaking things up and blah 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 blah. But like, she was
right.
somebody like she's a like drama succubus. Like she just feeds off fucking drama, and like her community constantly had drama in it. She loved it, and I'm like, she's my age, and I'm like you're like, it was the weirdest thing. It was like being in a quasi cult sorority. It was so because everything was, oh my god, I just got full body chills. Did you get full body chills? I just got full body chills. Everything was like this
Right.
weird, it was so fucking weird. But her thing, her, and then the other thing she would teach people is, you know, on your sales calls, you don't tell them how you do anything. If they ask you, you know, how you do this, you say, well, somebody who was just very similar to you and had a very similar problem, these are the results I got her. But she was really like, no, you don't tell people how you do things because that's your secret sauce, and if they want to know, they need to pay you. And
Mm,
beware, anybody who won't tell you, you know, what they're doing, because this is what happens. So, and her way of doing, she had so much brilliance, she really did, so many brilliant things. There's things that I still go back and refer to from a spiritual course that I did with her, which is really ironic because you'd think a spiritual person, that's not my definition of spirituality. But she had like a lot of brilliance, but then she had just a lot of like super aggressive, super like shitty tactics.
Mm.
And what was I going to say about that? Amanda, where was I going with that?
We got some spiritual epiphanies from the spiritual course, even
Spiritual.
though she's a wingding.
Oh my lord. Well, she's a wannabe cult leader. Like at this point, like if you're in her community and you seriously, she will tell you if you do not 100% agree with her about everything, get out. Like you're not a coach. That's cult. That's fucking madness. Um, but yeah, okay. So I'll just bring it back. Like, but there, I know people who were preaching that kind of like bullshit, and then like not telling
Mm.
anybody, how they're doing things. Okay, no, I know where I was going to go with this. So one of my clients, she got caught up in the hype around a probably a webinar, some kind of launch, and these people were like, oh, I got this program. It works for everybody. First off, no system works for everybody. All systems work hypothetically, but no system works for everybody. Like it's anybody who tells you that like my system works for everybody, they're full of shit. My course works for everybody, they're full of shit. But
Yeah.
my tired is catching up with me. Okay, so she signed up for this course that worked for everybody, and it turns out that it was all around doing Facebook lives, and she was not comfortable doing Facebook lives.
Mm.
you know and some people will be like, well, she just needs to get over it. Okay, well, maybe she does, but they should have spelled that out. They probably would have attracted some people who were like, yes, I really want to know how to go live,
Yeah.
and really use it to monetize my business or monetize my social media. I know somebody else who got into this thing, and it was all, oh, this works for everybody, this works for everybody, and it was all about email marketing. And my friend had a custom greeting card business, and she was like, no, doesn't, you know. So people need to tell you, like, is it a class? Are they going to be teaching you something? Are they going to be using hypnosis? Are they going to be coaching? Are they going to be consulting? Are they going to be mentoring? Because those are different things. They're related, but
Mm.
they're different things. um
Yeah.
is it going to, you're going to have to journal every day? Are you going to have to go live? Are you going to be, oh my god, I talked to one girl, she paid $12,000, and she's going through this program. I think it's specific for health coaches, and it's like a 6-month program, $12,000, and their whole thing is to cold pitch people in the DMs to
Oh,
a 3 or 5 day challenge. That's their whole business model, and it's not working, but she's locked into this contract.
yeah. Eh, yeah. I feel like cold pitching has its place. I say that very tentatively.
Because
There's people
everybody's
who,
gonna go.
yeah, and I don't like it. I really don't. And I have done lives before where I'm like, stop the fucking cold pitching, but like, it can work.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't like it. It's out of integrity for me. I used to cold pitch because that's what I was taught, and it did work. But I had to go through like 100 people to get one person to sign up. So was it really working that well? Not really. Anyway, everything has its place, but it's also what feels right for you. And also we're energetic beings. So how do we like to show up? How do we like to shop? I think that's a big thing as well, because we all like to shop differently. If I have to get on a call with you to find out the price, it ain't happening. I will not come on the call. It's not happening. You've lost me already. So just be upfront about it.
Right. Yeah, and you gave some really great examples that last week. You said that the reason you hired your current accountant is because he
Yeah.
actually was able to give you a range, at least, instead of being all mysterious. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's important because we all like to shop differently. And some people really want, to be, taken care of as the shopper. And I'm like, I can take care of my fucking self and I'll pay you if I like what you've got. But if you have to like explain things to me because you can't explain it on your website, I'm not buying. Like it's very, we all shop differently. So be as accommodating to as many types of shoppers as there are.
Right. Yeah, I mean, well, and you have to look at like what feels good to you. Well, I think there's a happy marriage. Like
Yeah.
what feels good to you. Absolutely, you got to stay in your own integrity, and you've got to do things in a way that makes sense for you. But we do also have to consider our consumers.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone yesterday, and she was like, I don't know whether I should do a 4 week or an 8 week program. And I was like, okay, so you could do market research. Well, she didn't want to do that,
Mm.
and to old clients. And then she was saying that she had like 100 people signed up for this challenge that she's going to be doing. And I was like, I would market research those people and
Yeah.
like build your challenge around their biggest. It's like, what is it, like, give them what they want but also what they need.
Yeah.
Because some, I feel like people a lot of times they think they know the answer to their problem, but you're the expert, so you can see like what the actual problem is. But you gotta find a way to give them what they want and what they need. But she didn't want to do any market research, and she was just like, no, I think I'm just gonna do it this way. And I was like, okay. And I hope it works for her, but I'm like, I feel like you're missing out on this ginormous opportunity, not only to serve your people better, but to ensure the success of your challenge and your launch. By
Yeah.
just like ask these people what they want. And she was like, well, I don't want other people telling me how to run my business. And I'm like, fair. I don't want people, like, I had one course, they were like, yeah, you're you need to market research your audience about your brand colors. And I was like, no, they're my brand colors. It's me. If they're not going to buy from me because I like pink, they weren't
Yeah,
going
like
to be a
that.
good
That yeah,
match.
that gets to the point where it's like, what the fuck? But then at the same time, it's like, as an entrepreneur, we serve. We are the server. And I think sometimes people get really confused about leadership as in being king of the castle, when no, you're the one helping lift other people into the spotlight. So what spotlight are they trying to get to? Figure that out so you can lift them
Mm,
there. Like, it's learning to serve, and like it's getting your ego out of the way for that. And I think you're right, there's things that are like, this is me and this is how I'm defining myself in marketing and showing up, but what do you need so that I can serve you better? And you're right, it's asking your audience, would you be interested in this? Like, get some if they're not interested, you're wasting your fucking time anyway.
right. It was like, ask people, do they want a 4 week course or do they want an 8 week course? Do they want group? Do they want one-on-one? Because they might really be digging what you're putting out there and really excited to learn, or to have the transformation you're talking about, but you put it in the wrong vehicle. And they're just like, no, I
Yeah.
don't want to, it's like, that's not going to, or they, they just know that like 4 weeks isn't going to be long enough. That's not going to be of value to me. Or 8 weeks is like too damn long, but you don't
Yeah.
know until you've either done it enough times or you just ask people.
Yes. I think that's something that is really huge, is finding out what's going to work for our audience, and being able to custom fit it in a way where, yes, they're going to get all the information, all the support they need, but it's showing up in a way that's conducive to their schedule and their habits. And a single mom who's got to work a full-time job is not going to be able to commit to showing up all day every day for something. So it's like finding out what works for your audience is absolutely crucial. And then the other thing is, and I find in the online space, it's like people forget about this, but there's seasonal buying trends,
Hmm.
and it is important to accommodate them. And it does differ for industry, but like, coaches, I know there's going to be a lot of coaches watching this. Running a long, intensive program over the holiday season, good luck getting people to commit to that. Like,
And yet, one of the last, like, the last big program, the program I'm in now is only like 50 people, and it's
mhm,
nice because there's a bunch of different coaches that with different expertise, within it. This program was like over 100 students and only one coach, which I will never do that again. That was kind of crazy.
mm,
But she had done this launch. I think it was her. I went in on the seventh time she was running this program, and she sold it right before Thanksgiving. I think was when the cart was closing, and
interesting.
she got, 100 over 100 students at, $5,000 to $6,000 depending on if they were doing the payment plan. And then, of course, there was an upsell to do one-to-one. So
Yeah.
you can't, there's always outliers. There's always ways to do
Yes.
things. But
Yes.
you're right. Like there's, I was talking to somebody the other day and I was like, okay, you're going to launch right now with this election going on down here in the US. And I was just like, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying manage your expectations. Understand that, you may not get the results that you're really wanting right now, but that's okay. You can
Yeah.
refine it for next time. But, just manage your expectations. Go ahead. I'm not do it, but just
Yeah. Well, and I think, I love that you brought up that example of, it was a really successful launch right over the holidays. And I think it also depends on how you format it. Because if it's something where it's like you need to show up 2 hours every day for the next 6 weeks, that's going to be hard for people. Even if they do pay, they may not
yeah.
get much out of it. But if it's like once a week we've got a call that we hop on, that's a different format where
Yes.
the accommodation for the people, it has been thought through. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I think group coaching programs are fantastic over the holidays. Sell your one-on-one spots. That's something that'll do well. And even pop-up classes, like a master class, at 60 to 90 minute, something where, people will schedule that in over that time. And
Yes.
it's not like going, I'm committing to a college program over the holidays where it's that kind of
Right.
intensive stuff. So yeah, I 100% agree. It does, you can absolutely launch anytime, but it's taking that consideration into, what does your audience need and how is it going to serve them? Or are you just taking their money and they're going to be really disappointed come the end of it?
Right. Yeah. So the way it was once a week calls.
Yeah.
And there was new material that would come out, but there wasn't. It was a 6 month program. We didn't get new material every week. Some weeks were implementation
Mm,
weeks where you still
right.
had the group call, but you had more time to kind of digest something, which that was really good. I really liked that because life happens, and maybe you're not able to catch up, you're not able to do the work one week, and so there were like a lot of implementation time over the holidays, which was really smart. But for anybody watching and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna go do a launch and over the holidays and it's gonna be fine. Like, this is an established entrepreneur who
Yeah.
did a intensive 90-day build up to this launch. She had launched
Hmm.
at seven, this was the seventh iteration of this course, and doing the launch and everything. And she had a big following, so
Yeah.
all those are factors. And some of
And
the people who
yeah,
some of the
sorry, I
people
didn't
who
mean to
were
cut you off.
rejoining. No.
No, but I think the other thing that was a big part of that is it wasn't like this is a 6 week program that we're just running over the holidays. This is a six
Exactly.
month. So we're gonna
Hmm.
ease in over the holidays and then we're gonna ramp up when we hit the new year. So
Yep.
it was a very smart approach to it. And I think that's the biggest thing is have you thought it through? And I don't always see that happen with the newer entrepreneurs. And the same thing we tend to see an interesting little dip happen and this year was weird because of coronavirus, but like when school ends
So
and the kids
weird.
are at home, oh, this year's fucked. But this year had different bumps because the back to school was more intensive than it normally is. So everybody was like, help. So yeah, it was definitely a weird year.
Interesting times. And I had to stop. Like you're like weird, but like in the beginning everybody's like, oh my god, it's so scary, it's so scary, it's so it's so fucked up and bull. And I had to stop. I was like, okay, these are interesting times. I'm not gonna say scary anymore because I'm freaking myself out.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I have to take like some cosmic responsibility for coronavirus, I really hated my limo job. I really hated it.
Mhm.
And coronavirus put an end to that shit. Um, and it gave me time to go work on my business. And so I got more traction in my business this year than ever before, because I had more time to focus on it. But I also was willing to invest with multiple coaches. So I just had like
Mhm.
accountability coming out my fucking ears. It was like, did you do it? Did you do it? Yeah, I need help. Okay. I had all the support, all the help that I needed. And it's huge. And, you were saying about newer entrepreneurs don't know these things. There's so much to know. Even the big names, like, who have been doing this for years and are already making like bajillion dollars a second. they're still figuring shit out. They on their end it may more be like they're creating stuff. They're figuring out shit from scratch. And seeing what the new trends are. But there's always something more to learn, and so you need to always have. Well, you don't have to like every second of your journey have a mentor, but that's how people get to the higher stratospheres is because they're constantly investing in themselves, whether they're getting one to
Mhm.
one or they're doing some kind of mastermind. At some point, the courses are great, but um like you talk about, like, get a course and kind of see what somebody's about, do that lower
Yeah.
ticket investment. But if you really want to get the most out of that information, you really need somebody who is going to hold you accountable and who's going to help you implement.
Yeah. And I also think like it's interesting because everybody's very different in the way they interact. And I find the majority of people don't hold themselves accountable and are not good at structuring themselves. So
Mhm.
that's where the courses can be detrimental because you can be throwing money at them, but you're not really going, this is what I got to do. I've done my fucking homework. It's kind of like reading a book, but going, that's nice, not going to implement. Like, you've got some
Yes.
new knowledge, which is great, but if you're not doing something with it, then it's not very useful. And then I know people who and I'm very much like this, and I know I'm weird because I'm that person who goes, okay, that's the work I got to do. I'm going to do it. And I swear it's because I got Virgo moon. Like, it's like, go do it. So I do, but not many people do that. And I realize that I'm really weird that way. And most people do need specifically like somebody to go, did you do your homework? Did you go do your homework? Like, it just
Yeah.
needs to be done. And it's fine, like to admit that we need that and to have that accountability because somebody's got to kick our ass and get us in line and also to elevate us to the next level. Cause we always have a pain threshold, right? Where we're like, I could not do it.
I mean, yeah. Well, and what it brings to mind, like, is like a personal trainer, right?
Yeah.
Um, a personal trainer, and well, I can give a funny example too, but a personal trainer, a personal trainer, knows ideally knows what they're doing. They can look at your body and tell more specifically what you need, and they're going to get you to do the exercises correctly, or
Yeah.
they know how to adjust them. Like my wrists are really funny, so trainers have to know that there's some exercises we always have to modify, right?
Yeah.
And so I know that I can go and I can work out, but I'm never going to work myself out as hard as I'll work out for a trainer. And
Yeah.
I know that that's just silly, but it's the way it is. And that's
But
how
it's
most people are.
true.
But it's
Yeah.
true. And even if I did exercise as hard, I may not be doing it exactly right. So I'm not going to get as good of results. And, I'm going to get bored, because I'm going to be like, oh, I've got to do the same workout again. Well, they're always going to keep things fresh. And so it's the
Mhm.
same with having, a coach, a business coach is like a personal trainer for your business, you
Yeah.
know, um, yeah, it's just and on like a metaphysical level, like what I think, because I know a lot of people who didn't get their businesses off the ground until they worked with double coaches. Have you seen this?
I have seen that, and I've seen this is such an I love this topic. I love that you brought that up because I've seen that work both ways as well, where
Mm,
it's some people do need the extra accountability because they need more check-ins and
hmm.
more various perspectives and that kind of thing. That really helps. And then I see people who hire two, three, four, five coaches simultaneously and then they've just had so much homework all the time and they're fulfilling this workaholic thing but they're not actually getting anywhere and it's kind of coming back to this lying to ourselves about it. So yeah, I've seen it both ways and I think it is finding 100% what do you need to grow, what do you need as
Right.
an individual to spring up. And um, it's so individual. There is no one size fits all, business, life, whatever transformation. It's try it, see what works for you. And I think a big thing too is, you talked a lot about investing this year, and that's been like the conversation that I've been having this week as well. Because I mean, one thing that's disheartening, having been in the online space for over 7 years, is there's some people who've been around, like, following my journey for almost the whole time, who year after year,
I saw your
want
post.
to invest, talk about investing, talk about their dreams. They're no further ahead than they were 5, 6 years ago.
Yep.
And that, it's hard to watch. It's so hard to
It
watch
is.
that.
It is. It's really disheartening, and I did that, but I was investing, but I kept investing in big group courses
Mhm.
and group coaching things, and they weren't working for me. Um, I don't think that the really big ones work for most people.
Mhm.
When I talked to people that were also in my classes, who were willing to be vulnerable and honest about what was going on with them, most of us weren't signing a single client.
Mhm.
Yes, there were outliers who came in and, just they were brand new entrepreneurs, and all of a sudden they started making like three, four, $5,000 a month. It can happen.
Yeah.
It's just not common.
Yeah.
And then something that I talk about a lot is how misleading the testimonials can be, where
Mhm.
they're like, oh, this person doubled their ROI in just 1 month. And it's like, they're not telling you that that person also upgraded to one to one, and they already have a following, and they were already doing, $3,000 months before that. So, yeah, it was easy
Yeah.
for them to get a couple of new strategies and the extra help to, do that. But they're marketing this course toward new entrepreneurs, and I don't like that lack of transportation. Oh my god, I need a nap. That lack of transparency uh, in the testimonials is really gross.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree with you, like, people can get too much going on with coaches. And my thing about it was, on a metaphysical level, like, you've got somebody else focusing their energy on your dream, you know
Yes.
and I
Yes.
think that that was part of it for me this year, is that it wasn't just me trying to manifest this on my own. I was enlisting help, and other people were
Yes.
focusing on my business, even if it was only for like an hour long call once a week. And then I had like the support, right? And the other part of it was, like, in the group programs, I would get stuck, and then I would have to wait a week to ask a question to get unstuck.
Yeah, it's a very different setup with, yeah, I completely agree with that. Like, I see most people run it that way. And I've only started offering group coaching with another coach, like we do it together. And one of the things that we made sure was implemented, because we knew that, yeah, when you got to wait a week to ask a question, that sucks, is we're like, this is the group. You got questions in between. You're stuck on something. You're trying to launch and it's not, ask for the love of God, because yeah,
Yeah.
it's a week in between is too long when you're implementing. And we do need
Yes.
that support. So I think that's something that I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's really important. And the one-on-one, I think that's where it does make a difference, because you've got somebody at your beck and call. But on top of that, when when a coach takes you on, you're like, they're like, you're something I'm taking care of, and you're something I'm putting energy and investing in, and I'm
Hmm.
taking care of you. So I'm thinking about you even when we're not together. And when I'm doing my morning meditation, like, oh, gotta tell them this idea for, like,
Right.
launching their thing, like, you're on their mind. They're always thinking of ways that they can improve, and they're creeping your Facebook feed going, are they crap posting again, like,
Did they post it all, for the love of God?
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
you've got somebody who, even you don't even see all the things that coach does behind the scenes. It's just like,
Mhm.
we're there watching, and making notes, and trying to help you grow in a big way. And it's a whole different thing than a course or a group program or anything like that. You get everything. And I think that's the game changer. And that's why so many people see such massive results, is you've got the support, you've got the person who's brainstorming for you, and access to a knowledge base that's
Yes.
outside of yourself. Yeah.
Yes. And I love the quote, you can't read the label from inside the jar, you know, which is like I am brilliant at helping other people with their ICA and refining their message, and like that stuff for other people. It's really hard for me to do it for myself,
Of
which is
course.
why I still get help. um But the other thing is, like, the two coaches, well, I was working with three at one point. So two were just business coaches, and the third was like a branding specialist. Okay.
Mm.
So, that was really different. But even with the business coaches, one was very like linear, like strategy, strategy, strategy. The other one was very woo woo. And so I needed both, at the
Yeah.
time. And so, that's the thing. Like, you may already have a business coach, but there may be gaps that person is not. No, nobody's everything, right? And
No, oh my
our
God.
we all have our specialties. Like my specialty is helping people with their sales calls conversations. Helping them know how to structure their calls, helping them know about mindset and sales psychology, and how to ethically handle objections. That's what I really really love to do. And I have to help them with their ICA and their messaging as a part of that, and
Yeah.
pre-qualifying their leads and all that stuff, but if somebody needs really help writing copy, I'm not that person, So that's why you can. But if you end up with multiple coaches, make sure they have like slightly different angles on things.
Yeah.
Don't two people who have very strong opinions about strategy, they're going to end up giving you different things to do, and that's going to be a problem. You know.
Yeah. Well, I think I mean, that goes with anything is, I always like people who are open-minded, who, they're going to have their ways. I mean, we all do, right? They've got their systems and their strategies, but that they are a perpetual student of life as well, that they're
Yes.
constantly growing and learning, that they're willing to go, I don't want to do it that way, but fucking try it out. If that works for you, great. Like, I think that's so important, because I get scared when people are like, this is the only way. I'm like, bye.
Yeah. No, and that's why, like, I have my ways that work for me, but I also have, all the, like, as frustrating as it was to go through all these courses and not get results. It wasn't that everything about them was bad. There were,
No.
and I did, and one of my mistakes was that I would throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'd be like, oh, that doesn't feel ethical to me. And then I would be like, oh, I'm not listening to you anymore. And the truth is, there was a lot of good there, but I should have just filtered out that thing. And so, having gone through all that, I used to be like, oh my God, I wasted so much money. But I didn't, because now I have all these different things that I can bring to the table, plus whatever my client is bringing to the table about what are they thinking about, what works for them. And I'm a genius at custom tweaking stuff,
Mm.
whether it's personal growth stuff or, business stuff. And, y'all, your sales problem could have nothing to do with business stuff. Like, I had a whole session with a client the other day that was all about like setting boundaries with family, you
Mm.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa, what is
And
happening?
it's backwards on StreamYard, which totally fucks me up, because I'll do something to my hair and then I'll go to try to fix it and I just fuck it up more. So I'm like just trying not to touch my hair at all. So I feel you.
Yeah, it does. It does. Like, whenever I'm always trying to go like this, like to point at somebody, and then I'm like,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
fucking program.
On Zoom, it's not backwards, but on StreamYard, it's backwards. But StreamYard, you can stream in multiple places at once. We can
Yeah,
be
it's so
everywhere.
much. It's a wonderful system. It really is. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just like,
What do I do? Oh, no, you're also a best-selling author. I had another best-selling author on my program on Monday, and
that's
she's an
awesome.
international speaker and all this stuff. Yeah, she's a great guest. She talks about noble selling. She's awesome, Lisa McLeod. And first off, I get on and I realize that my earring is jacked up, and like, so I'm trying to fix it, and finally I was just like, fuck it. So I did the rest of the interview with like one earring in, but my hair
I
mostly
love
covered
it.
it. And I was like, I was like, I don't want to call attention to it anymore. I'm just gonna roll with it. And then what was the other thing? Yeah, like the whole interview, my hair looked fabulous, and then I did something, and then I was like, wait. So I'm just like, don't
That's true.
touch
You
your
can't
hair,
fix it
Heather.
on here afterwards. It's not a mirror. It doesn't work. And yeah, it's. But and I think that's another thing that's just like the fun that you and I have as well, is we're just like, fuck it. Like, you get what you get. Like, this isn't sugar coated sprinkles. This is fucking Rocky Road. Like, this is this is the real deal. Like,
Yeah, yeah, and, I. I'm sick. I'm sick of the bullshit because I fall for the bullshit. I
Oh,
really,
we
I have to like,
all do.
oh my God, like so I got off drugs, and then my joke is that like personal development and business development like courses became my fucking crack, like I'm just like I would go and I would start watching a webinar, and I'd be like, I'm just gonna go, I'm just gonna take notes and see what I can learn. By the end of it, I'm like foaming at the mouth. I'm like, I have to have this. I have to, it's gonna work. It's the answer to everything. And it's
Oh.
and it's not. And so I mean, I got in a lot of debt, from doing that stuff, and I learned a little bit from everything, but nothing was remotely what I thought it was going to be. And like I said, I take responsibility. It's like ultimate ultra accountability is like the ticket, y'all. Like that's the ticket to your power, that's the ticket to your ultimate freedom. Like fucking take responsibility for your shit. And so my responsibility is that I kept falling for it. I kept listening to this stuff, and there was a voice in the back of my head that was like, Heather, this is probably too good to be true. But I didn't want to hear that because they were telling me, oh, I can show you how to, get the big thing back then. I think was like 2K months, and then it became 5K months, and now it's 10K months. But I didn't want to hear that it was going to be hard. Like, and I was like, I kept falling for it. But I could have, not thrown the baby out with the bathwater and, upgraded to the one-to-one coaching. There's ways I could have made it work. Don't be me. Like, just get a one-to-one coach for the love of God.
Make the jump. Yeah, it's so true because it's a whole other perspective, and especially like find the person who really resonates with you. And it's the like we said before, the coaching, like take a course to see if you like the way that they teach, the way that they show up and their energy. But don't get stuck on the endless courses ride, because I think that's something that is really easy to get stuck on. And find that person who's really resonant. And I think the big thing is, don't get blinded by the people who are constantly like, oh, look at my bank account. Like it's very, you can forget that you hate the way that they show up totally in the marketplace, but holy crap, they make a lot of money, so I'm going to sign up with them. And I have had so many people come to me going, why the fuck did I sign up with that asshole? I don't even like them. They're a jerk. They bully people, but I saw the numbers and I was like blind. And
Right.
It's a part of the reason, like, I love how your thing is ethical sales. And for me, it's ethical is a word. Yeah, it's really
It's a
important for
world
me
of a
as well.
word.
Yeah, like it's a reason I don't talk about the money part a lot. I still want the conversation to be there because I think we do need to break down money stigma
Hmm.
and money blocks and the feelings that come along with it. I think that's important.
Hmm.
But I'm not constantly going to be like, guys, look what I made this week. Oh my god! Like, just you don't need to be blinded by that. Like that's going to attract the wrong people. So make sure that if you are money blinded, that you take a step back and go and check out their other shit and see if you even like it.
Right. Because here's the thing. There are a lot of people. Some of the most successful people in the business are really great at sales and marketing, but they're not great at coaching. They're
Mm-hmm.
not great at helping other people. They found a system that worked for them, and so now they think that that is the one and only system. And especially in these group programs, like one to one, they might help you tweak it more, but in a group program, they can't say, oh, well, for you it needs to be this, because they've got to protect their system. It's like the fucking
Yeah.
Matrix and their agents. They're like, we got to protect the system. This is how I'm making $100,000 a month. So I can't for a second let on that there might be something not perfect about this. But there's people that are really completely driven by the money and the lifestyle. And I'm not attracted to that. Other people are. That's fine. One of my mentors talked about, like, what are your drivers? What are your emotional drivers? Like, what is it being, a part of a community? Is it having people look up to you? Is it, you know, the Gucci bags and the designer shoes? And, you know, what is it? And you want to be aligned with the person that is coaching you, because if they're all about just community and, you know, making money, but they're more about community and doing good, and you really want the like huge paydays, you know, it's not going to be a good match. And vice versa. You know, if they're all about, okay, this is what you need to do, you know, and take no prisoners at all costs. This is what you need to do to get to 10K months. And you're like, whoa, I really, you know, I really want to like collaborate with people, and I really want to, you know that I'm really doing good. Like, people have different things that are important to them. And you know, I mean, it's not right or wrong, you know, but but do know, like, the woman I was talking about that had like some really good spiritual stuff, but then she had these really aggressive, kind of gross sales and marketing tactics. She would, oh my god, I'm so sleepy. What would she do? She would. Oh my gosh, what was I just talking about? I was talking about icky stuff. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So it was so funny. So she always had these out of this world testimonials about people work with her, and all of a sudden their businesses took off, and it was just darling, just like these out of this world testimonials that she swore were true. And I think some of them were like, it was just, you know, but like most people that people that I knew in the groups, like, they were not having these experiences. But then like a year later, no, I guess it was about 6 months later, after I stopped fucking with her, because I was like, okay, you're the good is starting to be really outweighed by the bad, so fuck it. She was doing a live webinar with one of her she was doing a live with her top student. And this top student had been like a student of Bob Proctor's and had already had like all this massive success,
Mm.
and then came to this to this other mentor. And she was saying, like, you know, I got a bunch of people to $100,000, but they couldn't stay there on their own. Like, you're my only student that got to $100,000 and actually has stayed there and gone up. And I'm like, yeah, because you're not a coach. You market yourself as a coach. What you really are is a consultant, and you could tell people what to do, but you couldn't show them how to do it on their own. So
Mm.
that's why as soon as people stopped working with you, all of a sudden, like, the money they were making, went down.
Cool.
And
Yeah.
this star student of yours, she had already been making $50,000 months while she was working for this other big person. So she had this foundation. She wasn't somebody that was brand new. So it was interesting to hear her admit that. It's like, yeah, I got a lot of people there, but they didn't stay there. And it's like, yeah, because
Yeah. Yeah. I think definitely, like, there's a lot of flash and pizzazz, and some people, like you say, that they're great salespeople, but they're not great mentors. And it's one thing to do it yourself, and it's another thing to be able to help somebody else learn how you
yes,
did it. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, if you're going to teach, you do need to learn. Like, people learn in different ways. Some people have to do something to understand it. Other people need to hear it, and other people need to see a visual representation in
mm-hmm,
order to digest the information. And so you
yep.
need to be able to encapsulate all of those elements to make sure that they're really understanding, comprehending, and applying it.
Or, straight up ask them, like, are you a
Yeah.
kinesthetic, a visual,
Yeah.
or an auditory learner?
Yeah.
And then just cater it, like that. If you're doing a big group course, you do need to include all the elements, because
Yeah.
people do have, their different learning styles. But one of the things that I really like about the course that I'm in right now, the group thing that I'm in right now, is that their calls aren't so much coaching calls as they are implementation calls.
Oh, I like
And
that.
yeah, and so that's something that I'm starting to incorporate it, in my practice, is to not just sit around and talk about it, but go ahead and open up a Google Doc and start like brainstorming and getting everything down and collaborating, and not just talking about, okay, you're going to do this post. It's like, okay, well, let's dive in there. What needs to be in this post?
Yeah.
What needs to be in this offer? And not just leaving it kind of to chance. And I don't know, part of me is like, well, that's hand holding, but I'm okay with a little bit of hand holding. Like, sometimes,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Well, and it
yeah,
depends on the person, because some
yeah,
people, you go do these three things, and like they're done by the end of the day. And other person, you go do these three things, and next week comes around, I got busy and shit happens, and it's like it's just a different type of person. So I know for some of my clients it's like, we need sales copy, open up your document. We're gonna talk our way through this while we're on the call because we have to, or it's not gonna be done. And if it doesn't get done, then you can't market your fucking thing. And then next week we aren't have so it's a
Right.
thing.
Yeah, and so I love it. I love it too because you can like you're talking about it and everybody's already in that mode, and then like you don't go and talk about six other things, and then they've got to pick it up on their own later that
Yeah.
day or later in the week, and then they're not quite in the zone anymore, and they've kind of forgotten some of the nuances of what we've spoken about. It's like you just go ahead and get it, start getting a framework down at least. And I really like that. That's something that I'm changing right now and the way that I do things. And and that way questions come up in real time instead of like, okay, now this person's voxered me 3 days later and I've got to go back and remember what the hell I said. I was like,
Oh
what were
yeah.
we talking about exactly? So yeah, I want to work with people who are always learning,
Yeah.
and I think I think it's the way to go. Especially the online space is always changing. Facebook is always changing. I mean, look what happened when we went live using Facebook Live, and it's gone to the Instagram format.
Yeah, that didn't work at all. So yeah, it's adapting and growing. And I mean, if there's any proof that there's no way that things can stay the same as coronavirus, we've seen massive businesses crumble entirely. Why? Because they didn't adapt. And my whole like as soon as coronavirus hit and we started to see the massive implications at the end of March, my saying was adapt or die. And
Yeah,
a lot of them died.
yeah. Yep. And and this is the benefit of, if you've got a multi-billion-dollar corporation, with thousands of employees, it's a lot harder to make a shift. It's a
Mhm.
lot harder to make it. It's going to be slower, whereas if you're a entrepreneur, you're a solopreneur, like you make the decision and just, go. And
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Bottom line, like I was talking to somebody and like their part of Australia is still under like severe lockdown. Like like they get fined if they're more than 5 kilometers from their house lockdown.
Wow.
Yeah, like I've heard like there were a couple other places I heard in the world that had more severe lockdowns than that, but like they're still under that, like even now. And so her thoughts are really being colored by her personal experience. And I was like, listen, I just want to remind you that like the rest of the world is not being that locked down right now, and
Yeah.
yeah, there are people that lost their jobs, but some of them are getting into their credit or into their retirement accounts so that they can invest and create businesses so that they never have to be at the mercy of something like this again.
Yeah.
They're taking it as an opportunity of like, oh, I lost that job, I hated it anyway, now I'm going to really go follow my calling. And then there's other people that are still thriving, and they need they need the spiritual coaching or the health coaching or the business coaching, the romance coaching. The world has not ground to a halt, and I think it's really
Yeah.
important to remember that. Especially if you are in a place that's a little more still under like a more of a hardcore quarantine right now. The rest of the world isn't necessarily,
Yeah.
so and digital business, we are global.
Well, and I think that's the thing is now there's opportunities no matter where you are. I mean, if you've got access to internet, you can run a business from anywhere. You don't need any startup. Like you can, depending on what you're doing, obviously. But there's so many businesses you can do where you don't need any, upfront capital to get going. It's, we live in a world of opportunity for that, which is amazing. And really is a mindset when this
Mm,
hit because of so many people. Because it's interesting even with the whole idea of like recession because of this and all of that, and it's not like money just stopped. The money is still being printed every day, money's still going out to people, there's people making ass loads of money right now, like it's just crazy. But it's the people who only had a singular source for money to come into them where they're really feeling the pinch right now. And this is one of the reasons why I'm always big about like create your passive income sources, have multiple ways for money to come into you so that you're not screwed if one of them
Mm-hmm.
gets cut off,
Yeah.
which is kind of inevitable in life. Things change.
Things change, and we can't always see them coming. But so you're a sci-fi person.
Oh yeah.
Is there any part of you who, like, I was raised on post-apocalyptic sci-fi. Like, my early teen crush was fucking Mel Gibson and Road Warrior. Okay, I was raised on this shit, and I mean, by December we were hearing things about this pandemic, and it was an epidemic at that point, and I didn't really get how serious it was until March. And when I look back on it,
Mhm.
I'm like, Heather, how did you not see the signs? You're a
Well, but no,
sci-fi
none
fan.
of us
How did you
did.
not see that? But that's what I would say. As a sci-fi fan, do you look at that and say, huh, I've seen 8 billion movies about that. Like, I've read a few books. Like, how did I not prepare for this?
It's really interesting because I mean, for me, one of the things that I learned early on with personal development was like unplug from the news. So I
Yeah,
am one of the least like
me
I'm
too.
actually more plugged into the news now because of coronavirus than I was
Mm,
prior to it. But one of my, like I always say, is like my favorite guy, T. Harv Eker. He was like, get the fuck off the news. If something big's happening, you'll know when the tank comes down your street. You're good. Like, and it made me giggle, but he's right. Like, I mean, most of the time it just lowers our energy, it lowers our
it
vibration, it makes
does.
us think that the planet's falling apart, and they focus on the negative. They don't tell us the good shit that's going on. So
Mm-mm.
I didn't even really, I don't think I even heard about it until maybe late February. And only because my parents watched the news and my mom like happened to bring it up at some point. And I was like, who cares? Like it didn't resonate with me. Like it didn't even like, I was like, okay, some people are sick, they'll get over it. Like, it wasn't like pandemic, global problem. Like it wasn't a thing like that even hit home. And I think that's one of the things that's interesting about this is how quickly it took over. But I think it needed to, because I think yes, it's a pandemic and yes, that's horrible, but we are also at a time like we're at a spiritual awakening. We're transitioning into the age of Aquarius. We are leaving Pisces behind, which is all about institutions and like regimented stuff and masculine energy. And we are
Mm-hmm.
moving into the Aquarian energy of rebellion and, living in your truth. And I love it as an Aquarius. I'm like, vive la resistance. So, I love it. I love, and part of the change is that it's going to be, change isn't just like, okay, I'm glad that you had a good time taking over Pisces. Now Aquarian age, bye. It's like, the people who are used to, that masculine energy and that institutional energy and that kind of shit. It's that clash. And I think part of it is, what's going on in terms of the pandemic. I think the other part's about what's going on politically, because we've got two schools of thought and we are shifting into a new school of thought. And the old school is like, no. So
Yeah.
it's all for a reason. It's all happening for the spiritual awakening. So it needed to happen.
I think so. When I was joking about my part in creating the pandemic, so being a limo driver, I was standing in the Atlanta airport. It is the busiest airport on the planet. And so I was very aware of what was going on, even though I don't watch the news. I think that it's another way that, we were talking about how people that are scared are more easily controlled. And the news is all about keeping you in your emotions and keeping you off balance, so that they can sell you things. And ugh. So, but I was standing around the airport, like, and I was talking to people, so I knew that this thing was going on. And as a I'm not paranoid, but like as a sci-fi fan, I was like, I don't know how this snuck on by me. That isn't really. I think I didn't want to realize how big it was
Mm.
going to be, especially because it was going to kill this industry that I had invested over $30,000 to be in. I bought this car so that I could, be a chauffeur. And but a lot of the people, I was working for one of the top companies in the world, and they only drive Fortune 500 board
Mm.
members. Like that's their niche. And a lot of them were like, you know what? I travel so much. I'm kind of looking forward to staying home. So I feel like on a spiritual level, it was like our souls were like, okay, these fools are not going to slow down. They really need to slow down. They're not going to fucking do it. So I think it was like a soul conspiracy. It was just like, okay, we're gonna put everybody in timeout.
Yeah, planetary time out. It was really, really interesting. And I think I was in denial about how bad it was going to be up until about mid-March, when they were right before they were going into lockdown. And it was one of those things where I'm like, the news blows everything out of proportion.
And they
But like,
do.
they do. And so it's like, it was kind of like, I always think of the news as like the boy who cried wolf. I'm like, get over yourself. Like, it's kind of feels like that to me. So um it's definitely something that needed to happen, though, and I'm not really surprised that it happened. And I know there's been a lot of interesting things this year in like talking about that. And I thought one of the funniest things was like after it had started, and I saw a meme come out afterwards, and I was like, oh, I should have written this down. But like when it got going, somebody put out there the meme that the Mayan calendar, the guy who wrote it was dyslexic. It was really 2021 that the world had. And I was like, I was thinking that. So I was like, yeah, it just kind of felt accurate. Like it made me giggle, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, wasn't there like a time in like history where we skipped a few months? I mean, the calendar is toyed with, so who knows? I mean, this
Yeah.
might be 2012 for all the fuck we know. Like,
It's it's so fascinating, like just the different elements of it. And one of the things that was really interesting, they talk about this in the pyramid code, but you can like Google it, where they have the how we're moving from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, but it actually goes in like this cycling arc that's, I think it's about a 36,000 year thing that we go through, and we're actually just coming out of the dark ages according to this, which makes a lot of sense with like everything that's happened over the past 2,000 years, and that we're finally on the upswing of that. From a spiritual level, I was like, interesting times we live in. Next time I incarnate, it's going to be at a higher point.
right. Interesting fucking times. Oh my gosh. I could talk to you forever, but I need a nap.
I know this week has been so like messed up for sleep with this goddamn full moon energy. Like, if my husband this morning was like, don't even talk to me, I'm fucking tired, I haven't slept all week. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, it was the full moon this week, wasn't it? And I'm like, he's like,
Like that was personally your fault. Like, you made the moon full this week. Damn you. Okay. He was moon bullying you. No,
that is abuse. Sorry.
Abuse. Oh my god, the fucking crazy. Like, oh my gosh. I just have to tell you about another one. Like, there was a woman who was, it was like, I don't know if it was an evergreen or it was courses or something, anyway, but her big thing was that if you weren't getting at least 30% refund requests, you weren't marketing hard enough. So
I
you're
think that's
selling.
a terrible thing to aim for.
Yeah, but that was her whole thing, is that like if you're not marketing to basically a lot of the wrong people. If you're getting refund requests, it's because you're not marketing to people that actually value what this is. But so I guess it's like marketing a course and offering like a 30-day money back guarantee or something like that. And if you weren't getting at least 30% refund requests, you weren't marketing enough. Exactly. And I mean, that's the kind of shit. That's the kind of bullshit that's out there. It's not everybody, but that is the kind of nonsense, that I want people to be aware of, and then they can choose. Do you want to do that? If that's the kind of marketing you want to do, I'm not the coach for you. If you want to figure out how to do it in a way that, if you want to figure out how to market and sell in a way that's going to feel good to you and feel good to your clients, and get you consistent paydays, and not sell your soul, then come talk to me.
Right. And also, like, to add to that, if you've got to do 30%, just know you're going to pay your accountant more because they've got so much more work to do with
Yeah,
your fucking books.
yeah, yeah.
Fuck. That's
I
the
mean,
weirdest advice I've ever heard.
but I mean, she may have had. Here's the thing, like when people are doing crazy shit, I always try to give them a little bit of grace because they may have some mentor that they got so caught up looking at their numbers, of
Mm,
oh my gosh, this person's making $50,000 a month. I have to go work with them, and then you go work with them, and you like they're pushing you to do things you're not comfortable with, and it's very easy to fall into this trap, where you're like, oh well, if this person is making this much money a month or they're charging me this much, then I shouldn't question them. And no, question everything.
yeah, like
you know
yeah, like I always think it's so important to find a mentor who is going to help you do your best in the method that feels good for you. And
yeah,
yes, they're going to have a system they can teach, but the fact that they'll be malleable if you want to try something else, like I think that's something that's really important because yeah, there's some weird advice out there, and there's totally conflicting opinions because I have that one just like irks me to my core because I'm like the total opposite. I'm like, I want to see you like refund maybe one person a year. I want your customers to be so fucking happy that they're referring everybody to you. Like I want that
right.
for you.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it's different philosophies, and it just goes to show you like everything works and nothing works. Everything works for somebody, but nothing
Yeah.
works for everybody. So, mm. Well, thank you so much for having me. If you guys want to come check out my group, it's the Ethical Sales for Coaches and Healers. I shortened the name. I'll put the link in the comments. And
Yeah, I'll do the same.
yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you. It was
Yeah.
always good to
Well,
hang
thank you
out.
for setting up the technical side since that just
Oh
went to
my
fucking
gosh.
hell.
Yeah, everybody know that if you're doing Facebook Lives with a co-host now, it's going to set you up on top of each other and not in the fun way like they do in Instagram. You're no longer able to do side by side unless you're doing Zoom or StreamYard, and maybe some others, but just not through Facebook Live. So thanks everybody who watched live.
Have a good nap. Have a good day.
I'm
We need
going.
to sleep.
Yes, it's nap time. So bye everybody. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
Bye.